Life in Volthelm is quiet, save for the occasional bloodthirsty raid on an unsuspecting village. Sometimes we take prisoners, but only ones that improve life at home. Most of them stick around to Sockdome Syndrome or something that Bookworm was talking about. He talked so much I beat him to death for some peace and quiet. There is a prisoner we're not supposed to discuss. The chief spoke rudely to her and she sent him flying across the block with a single punch. We hooted and hollered so loud that he threatened to behead anyone who mentions the incident. He orders us not to feed her, but she just conjures food and water out of thin air anytime she wants. She stands quietly in her cell and unnervingly stares at guards passing by. It's my day for guard duty and, as a high-value prisoner, she's right next to the guard station. Joy.
Ingvar, the village is under attack.
Who would be stupid enough to attack us?
I don't know, but let's get out there and have some fun.
I'm supposed to be watching the prisoners, Gron.
It would be like you to miss a scrap. Valhalla!
The alarm bell slowly goes quiet, but the screaming intensifies. Why did they stop ringing the bell when the attack is ongoing? I glance at the prisoner and my blood freezes as I find her watching me. She raises an eyebrow, as if to question why I don't defend my people. She is right. I step out of the barracks and behold a terrible sight. Living darkness in the shape of a human is chasing down and killing our people. I can see their life drain from their bodies as the creature touches them, but before they die, their shadows vanish. Does it eat their shadows? What mischief of Loki is this? I regret killing the bookworm.
Ingvar, the chief lies dead. We must fight.
What's your plan, Gron?
Thor, I call upon your blessing.
Gron blasts the creature with a powerful lightning bolt, but the creature shrugs the magic off and pursues Gron, whose look of overconfidence becomes one of concern. Suddenly, other shadowy forms rise from the dead, looking eerily similar to their living forms. My courage turns to cowardice as I flee back into the barracks, leaving Gron to his fate. I slam and bar the door, finally drawing a look of concern from the prisoner. I can hope that we are beneath notice in this barracks and this nightmare will end. But no, a shadowy form squeezes under the door with as little effort as water, forming into the shape of my beloved Gron. I swing my weapon, but no matter how hard I strike, I can do little to subdue it. The creature suddenly grabs my throat and hoists me into the air, draining my very life essence. As my world turns black, I see a flash of radiance and feel my body collide with the floor. How much time passed between hitting the floor and waking up with the prisoner's hand on my arm, I cannot say. Release me. I can stop this. It was the first time I heard her speak. Had her words come from anyone else, I would have laughed in their face. I fumbled with the keys to open her cell, and she slowly exited, chanting words in a language I could not understand. I followed her at a distance, curious how she could stop the monsters that Gron could not. The square was overrun by shadowy forms of the dead who chased the living, but everything stood still when the prisoner, a priestess, strode into their midst. She glowed with radiant power that challenged the darkness. The shadows dashed towards her, seeking to extinguish her light. The priestess waited until the first of the shadows were nearly upon her before summoning guardians from the beyond. Two angelic forms encircled her, and I could feel the hatred towards the darkness even before the first shadow exploded into nothingness. One by one, the shadows were hit with blinding beams of light, leaving nothing. The townspeople cheered as the priestess and her guardian stood victorious, and I knew I would follow this powerful entity should she allow me. But in that moment, I finally noticed something that shook me to my core. As the light of her radiance faded, the priestess cast no shadow. Welcome back to a Compendium of Monsters. This week's entry, The Shadow. Before we continue, please make sure you've subscribed to my channel. It helps me out a lot. Shadows are challenge level 1/2, medium-sized undead. They have an armor class of 12, average hit points of 16, a speed of 40 feet, and dark vision out to 60 feet. Shadows are vulnerable to radiant damage, but are resistant to acid damage, cold damage, fire damage, lightning damage, thunder damage, and damage from non-magical attacks. Shadows are immune to necrotic damage and poison damage, as well as these conditions: exhausted, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, and restrained. Shadows have the amorphous ability, allowing them to move through a a space as narrow as 1 inch wide without squeezing. Realistically, as a DM, you could ignore this space requirement and allow shadows to move through any space that allows light to pass through. Shadows have the shadow stealth ability, allowing it to take the hide action as a bonus action when the shadow is in dim light or darkness. I guess your dark vision really isn't going to help you that much after all, especially when the shadow just fades into a wall and dark vision imposes disadvantage on perception checks to find it again before it attacks. Shadows have the sunlight weakness ability, meaning the shadow has disadvantage on attack rolls, saving throws, and ability checks while in direct sunlight. For their only action, shadows have the deadliest ability in the entirety of Tier 1 Dungeons & Dragons, Strength Drain. Strength Drain is a melee attack that deals an average of 9 damage per hit and reduces the target creature's strength score by an average of 2 each time. The target creature will die if their strength score is reduced to 0, otherwise the reduction lasts until the end of the next short or long rest. However, any creature killed by Strength Drain that is not evil in alignment will have a shadow rise from their corpse sometime over the next 4 hours. The reason Strength Drain is so dangerous is because most casters and non-barbarian paladin fighter player characters don't run high strength builds. If you dump strength using standard array, you'll end up with an 8. Depending on how well the shadow rolls that d4, you could end up dead in 2 hits. The other problem is that shadows deal an average of 9 damage per hit. As a challenge level 1/2 creature, 9 average damage is insane. Shadow Mastiffs, a challenge level 2 creature, deal 10 average damage per hit, while supposedly being 4 times more difficult to defeat than a shadow. Despite not having an origin listed in the monster manual, shadows are clearly born out of the abyss. You can tell because they share many damage resistances and immunities with demons. Shadows hunger for living creatures' vitality and can consume any living creature for subsistence. Humanoids are their preferred food, however, as non-evil humanoids killed by a shadow's attack spawn a new shadow after a short time. If a non-evil creature killed by a shadow returns to life, its shadow detects its return and usually seeks out its parent to vex or slay. Even if the shadow chooses not to seek out its parent, the creature that birthed the shadow no longer casts a shadow until their undead shadow is destroyed and they are targeted with a spell like Remove Curse. As a DM, don't throw too many shadows at your players unless they like the inevitability of their characters' deaths. If you're running a group with new players, I recommend 1, maybe 2 shadows tops depending on their level. Shadows have an intelligence score of 6, which is 40% lower than average intelligence. Shadows should attack the nearest target, which gives your players room to trade out whoever is trying to tank the strength drain reductions. The only instance where you could send more shadows at your party is if you had a cleric with Guiding Bolt prepared. Shadows are cruel, but you don't have to be. As a player, you should always ensure you have access to some basic form of radiant damage, as few creatures are resistant to it. If you have a cleric, they ought to have the first level spell, Guiding Bolt, prepared. It deals an average of 14 base radiant damage, which is doubled against the shadow. Then, on a hit, Guiding Bolt gives advantage on the next attack against the shadow, which could allow a nearby rogue or martial class to finish it. If you have nothing else, have party members weakened by Strength Drain leave the shadow's melee area since it generally won't pursue a target running away when other targets are closer. That, or spray and pray. Anyways, what do you all think of shadows? Let me know in the comments below. A quick thank you to my patrons. And thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, share my video on your Twitter, Facebook, or other social media, and make the leap to become one of my patrons on Patreon. I'll see you all next time.